about.
and get to
let's focus
some of
on
the
the good
great
stuff.
stuff that we have to talk about. Kelly, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know we still are expecting some other people to join, but I kind of want to jump right in and welcome everybody to today's HITEC Live, our first HITEC Live of 2026. I imagine that, everybody's, jumping in and getting the new year started. But I wanted to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Omar Duque. I'm the president of HITEC. Super privileged to lead this organization and work to develop technology leaders that are forward thinking and that bring really a diverse and global perspective to the incredible and important and impactful work of technology. This series, HITEC Live, is a virtual series where we bring together the technology community to connect, share, and most of all, to grow, consistent with our mission of being architects of growth. That is what this is all about, to share ideas, to share thought leadership, so that we can all be better leaders, better humans, and help those around us grow. The sessions are really sort of an informal conversation where we get to hear from our partners and community members on topics that touch on technology, leadership, and everything in between. Today, Capgemini, our partner since 2020, will be leading a conversation exploring what it means to really focus on sustainability and create a net positive impact in the world. This session will spotlight the partnership from the last 2 years between Capgemini and HITEC's Emerging Executive Program, our cornerstone leadership development program, which recently completed a compelling net positive case study as part of the curriculum. This collaboration, led by Capgemini and our EEP fellows, now for the past 2 years, as I said, has led to some incredibly impactful work, adding value to our EEP fellows' experience, but also aligning with our organizational mission of developing forward-thinking technology leaders. I want to especially thank Saul Salinas for his commitment to this work and for continuing to champion this engagement. To lead today's discussion on why becoming net positive is not just good for business, but also essential for long-term success, please join me in welcoming our partners, Franco Amalfi, Sol Salinas, and Andrew Wilson. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Omar, for having us, and thank you, Kelly, for organizing the session. Give me a second. The presentation is loading, and then I'll introduce the speakers, and then we'll get started. So today I have with me Saul Salinas, who is the Global Executive Vice President at Capgemini. He leads sustainability for the Americas. Saul is a leading sustainability and digital transformation expert with more than 30 years global experience. He's the founder of one of the most important programs that probably exist, the EPA's Energy Star. If you look at your appliances or you look at anything that has a little logo, that Saul was one of the initial creators of that program. Then he moved to Accenture, where he led a very large smart infrastructure, smart city practice. Now he joined Capgemini, and he leads work around net zero strategy, sustainable IT, operations, product design, and so on and so forth. Saul is also proud Hispanic, originally from Nicaragua, and now lives in the US. And thank you, Saul, for joining. We also have Andrew Winston. Andrew is a globally recognized expert on megatrends, sustainable business, and how to build companies that profit by contributing to a thriving world. He's currently ranked #1 on the Thinkers 50 list of the most influential management thinkers in the world. So thank you, Andrew. And he's also written multiple best-selling books on strategy and sustainability, including Green to Gold, The Big Pivot, and most recently Net Positive, which has sold nearly 250,000 copies in 15 languages. Welcome, Andrew. And last but not least, we have Vivian Johnston, or Vivi. She, in her current role at Oracle, Vivi manages the Latin American region and leads a team of engineers supporting restaurant-proof point of sales. She has more than a decade at Oracle. She has built a career focused on leveraging technology, fostering collaboration, and driving both customer and employee satisfactions. She's originally from Colombia. She brings a deep appreciation for diverse cultures that shape a leadership style. So welcome all the speakers. Thank you for joining us, and we'll dive right in. With that, Saul, take it quick the agenda. We're gonna have Saul give it a welcome, introduce who Capgemini is, and what the Net Positive Advisory Panel is. Then we're gonna have Andrew do an introduction to Net Positive. Then I'll talk about the case study that we did together with the EEP fellows over the last 2 years, and then we'll end with Vivi telling us her experience from being an EEP fellow, what she learned, and how this impacted her career. So with that, Saul, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Franco, and thank you all for being here. Let me just start by saying there was sort of one part of the bio that you left out, Franco. I think I'm number 55,558 on that top 50 list.
Oh, please.
I'm trying to make my way up. But look, it's great to be with all of you, and special thanks, of course, to Omar and all of you for joining this conversation. I want to echo what Omar said at the beginning. We are absolutely delighted to be partnering with HITEC on the work that we're doing on Net Positive, that was built, of course, by Andrew Winston and Paul Pullman, or I should say was reintroduced to the world community by Andrew Winston and Paul Pullman, successfully so. We have taken it to the next level based on the in large part because of the conversations and the partnership that Omar and the team have been able to help us solidify with HITEC. So thank you all for that. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes and not too many minutes talking about Capgemini, because you can choose your favorite Gen AI platform and search us and you'll find us. But suffice it to say that Capgemini is a global advisory and consulting firm and partner to companies all over the world. We have been in business close to 50 years. We're headquartered in Paris. We have close to 420,000 people across the globe that work with clients, from strategy to IT implementation to analytics to as a service, you name it. I have been with the firm close to 5 years, and I pinch myself every day that I get to sort of do well by doing good here at Capgemini. We are just jointly committed to the topic of sustainability and Net Positive. A couple of data points on us, as I mentioned: 420,000 people across 50 countries. We do about 22 billion euro a year in revenues. We work with about 85% of the 200 largest public companies on the Forbes Global 2000 list. We are especially proud of our research capabilities, our ability to scan the market for future trends. The Capgemini Research Institute, which is at the heart of our research capabilities, is number one across the industry, bar none. And we in case you happen to have run across any of our pieces by CRI, you will know exactly what that's the case. And sustainability is a topic that our CRI teams have focused on over the last 5 to 8 years, and we do believe has done a great deal to advance our knowledge base and our stature, if I can use that term, on the topic of sustainability. We have something called applied innovation exchanges, which allow us to sort of invest in our clients to identify what perhaps where they should be moving forward in the next 12 months, 24 months, 5 years out. We have 21 centers and networks, if you will, of applied innovation exchange teams across the globe. Clients, of course, are very satisfied with us. 4 3/5 client satisfaction level across our engagements. I'm not entirely sure how we landed on the 3/5, but suffice it to say, we are very proud that many of our clients, by the way, perhaps the most indicative indicator of the loyalty of our clients is close to half of what we call our platinum clients have been with us for 25 years plus. And these are global clients, so they've stuck with us for quite some time. Next slide, please. This is the term that we use. We believe very much in human-centered solutions. We of course are doubling and tripling down on the opportunities that AI is bringing to the table. But we believe AI is a complement to what we human beings can bring to the table, and by no means a replacement for. We of course believe in the magic of technologies, and we do use the term sustainable future in our mission statement, as per the statement on the screen. It is something that we believe transcends political environments, transcends commercial opportunities. It is part of our DNA. Ayman Azad, our global CEO, speaks to the topic of sustainability. In fact, he's in Davos as we speak, talking on energy transition and moving from sustainability to what he talks about, which is a corporate sovereignty, if you will. Next slide, please. These are just some of our values. Paul Hermelin is our long time chairman. And again, he talks about the importance of remaining entrepreneurs at Capgemini. We are large, but we do believe in the importance of having all our people, from entry-level analysts all the way to senior global executive vice presidents, seek opportunities for clients, and we believe in having the agility within the company to be able to do that. So it's part and parcel of who we are. Next slide, please. This is sort of a summary of our latest campaign, if you will. A lot of consultancies, as you might suspect, not surprisingly, develop a lot of decks and frameworks and chevrons and so on and so forth. We really believe in being with our clients face to face on a regular basis, making their aspirations very real, and sustainability is very much in keeping with that. We are front lines with them, whether it's at the power plant, whether it's on the manufacturing floor, whether it's in the C-suite for that matter. We do encourage our people to be there with our clients on an ongoing, regular basis. The default position for us is to be with our clients where they live and breathe, and not to be in the office. Something that I found very refreshing, frankly, having arrived at Capgemini 5 years ago. Next slide, please. This is just to give you a sense of where we are. I'm not going to read you the numbers, but like I said, I mean, we have a global footprint, and the Americas represents about a third of our global revenues and about 50,000 of our 400,000 plus headcount. Next slide, please. We have made a commitment to being net zero by 2040. Which is to say that reducing our carbon emissions by 90% relative to a 2019 baseline. We have met a goal that we had established for ourselves to be 100% renewable by 2025. We met that goal, and we have committed publicly to reducing the collective carbon footprint of our clients by 10 million metric tons of carbon equivalents by 2030, and we're well on our way to do that. We have thousands of people developing hundreds of sustainability offers across multiple topics, industries, et cetera. The way that we sort of summarize our playbook is we believe in the importance of getting our clients to commit to their own targets based on who they are, what their ambitions are. We believe in, of course, following those targets with commitments to act, whether it's through sustainable products, operations, IT, et cetera, and of course to monitor that performance and report it out accurately in a way that's above reproach. I'm happy to share all of that, of course, at some point. Next slide. Now, let me talk about the advisory board for Net Positive and how this sort of came about. Andrew and I reconnected about 5 years ago, as I recall. The book came across my desk, I don't recall how, and I invited Andrew and, of course, Paul Polman, who's the ex-CEO of Unilever and co-author of the book Net Positive, to join us at one of our marquee C-suite events that we host at Capgemini every year in Pebble Beach. Andrew was kind enough to join us in person, and Paul Polman was kind enough to have a fireside chat virtual with my boss, Ayman Azad, to talk about the book and talk about Net Positive. And that led to conversations about, hey, can we partner together and to begin to operationalize the tenets of this magical book? And we set out, Andrew, myself, and a couple others within Capgemini, to assemble a team of folks who were interested, similarly committed to what was in the book. And surprisingly, we were able to assemble a pretty powerful global group of folks. And again, these are some of the logos of the initial founders of what we call the advisory panel, to help us answer the question, what has to be true for us to operationalize the tenets of the book that Andrew and Paul Polman brought together. And we started thinking about, what are the steps for making it real, for mainstreaming it, and getting every enterprise on planet Earth to begin to think about Net Positive. That was the mission at hand 4.5 years ago. Next slide, please. We assembled the group, we started thinking about it, and we formally launched it at the marquee event of Sustainable Brands in just north of San Diego. Several of us were on stage with various members of this advisory panel to talk about our joint commitment to the topic. Andrew was there, as I recall, Andrew. I don't know how we possibly could have done it without you. At least you were there in spirit. And it was a great success. We had maybe 150 folks in the room, and we talked about the joint commitment, and we began to sort of map out a journey for how to make this real. And in 2024, it began to become real. We developed a framework for how to sort of disaggregate, if you will, the elements of the book that Andrew and Paul had written, and to operationalize it and to develop a framework, not to sort of use too much consulting speak, that maybe that folks could gravitate towards and act upon. Next slide, please. Um, and these are some memorable moments. But in any case, the framework was designed to sort of begin to measure, to give us an idea to sort of how to measure net positivity. This is just, gosh, a nice montage of photographs. The one on the right happens to be yours truly. I did a TEDx talk, and I couldn't possibly think of a better topic than to. I tried to channel Andrew Winston as best I could, and I don't know how close I came, but it was really, really well received. And I was just so delighted to do it. And I basically talked about Net Positive as being the next Energy Star program, at least for me. And it was, we really got a lot of visibility out of it. But of course, as I said earlier, that there's nothing that's really escalated or elevated this topic more than our relationship with you. And thank you to, of course, Omar and the leadership team at HITEC, Fernando and Kristen and Kash, the whole team. And these are just examples of some of the photographs of the EEP teams that have participated in bringing this forward along with ourselves. Next slide, please. Is this still me, Franco? Is this not you?
This is going to be actually, we're going to turn it over to Andrew. He's going to talk about what Net Positive is, and so he's going to, I think it's the next 10, 15 minutes to introduce the concept to the group.
Excellent.
Thank you, Saul.
So Andrew, please, now that the real fun part of the presentation begins, over to you, Andrew.
That is raising the bar. Thank you. Setting the standards pretty high. Thank you, Omar, and thanks, HITEC. This is fun that this is the third time that we're doing this, but I'm guessing almost everyone on the call, this is kind of the first time you're hearing about this. So I want to fairly quickly kind of set the stage for, and then, Franco and Saul will tell you more about kind of what this project or initiative will look like. But so let me step pretty far back and just talk about, sustainability in business. I know that that's not your core roles, that you have roles across organizations and various topics, and that's what makes, I think, this a really fun project. Sustainability just refers to companies working on things that used to be called, quote, non-financial, but are really about, a company's environmental and social impacts on the world. I spent 25 years kind of working on the idea that it's not non-financial. It's all very much financial, some of it very direct, some of it indirect, some of it takes time, but how you manage your own impacts on the world is part of how a business operates and how it creates value. And that there is a tremendous amount of value in seeing your business through this lens of these really big shared problems that we have. And I'll kind of come back to that. Clearly, it's an incredibly strange time for this field in the US. It's a strange time for the US in general, but if you've seen any news about this, there's something called ESG investing, which probably most of your 401ks have some funds in, which means investing in companies that have been screened in some way for thinking about environmental and social issues. And then there's something that grew over the last couple of years called the anti-ESG movement, or the backlash against basically all companies talking about this stuff. As we came through the first few years of the pandemic, every large company in the world basically talked about sustainability, issued reports, put out carbon reduction goals, and there was a backlash. And it came mainly from the US and mainly from the right. This is just the kind of reality of the situation. It's a much longer story, but I truly believe there's only a backlash when something is working, when something has power. There's no point in having a backlash if it's not changing things. And it was fundamentally changing the way business was done. And what's been, I guess, interesting or important is that My view, and I think there's now increasing evidence, is that the companies in the US have all gone very, very quiet. There's something called green hushing, which is the opposite of greenwashing. So green hushing means you're still doing stuff, you're just not talking about it. Um, and I think that's been the dominant choice of companies, almost every company in the US. But the evidence is mounted that the work didn't really stop. My work with kind of some very big brands, and I know Capgemini's as well, the work is still going on behind the scenes. The goals still remain, the KPIs internally remain. They're just very careful about talking about it. And there was data that came out in the fall from a bunch of different studies. MIT did a kind of supply chain study that showed that the goals and pressure on companies from businesses to their suppliers hadn't changed. In fact, a decent percentage had increased the pressure around sustainability issues. Accenture did a CEO, kind of global CEO survey in September, and literally 99% said they weren't planning any change in their sustainability. 88% said that the business case was better than it was 5 years ago, which is a sign of real progress. But 50% said they weren't sure how to talk about it, which kind of, I think, demonstrated how hard this is right now. There is, I think, some increasing evidence. Just today, I posted about this in the Financial Times. There was a long piece about the CEO of Nestle and his kind of leaked, it went public conversation he had with all employees, where he said that it was a pity that the company and he had not talked about sustainability more. He kind of blamed himself, but quite literally named President Trump and said the US has kind of taken it off the agenda, but he called it a huge mistake and said, we're not going to lose focus. He reaffirmed their goal to be net zero carbon, and he promised to talk about it more. So I'm hoping this is kind of the end of the retreat, that some big companies are realizing the going quiet really only did so much and that they still have work to do. And so this is all really good news because the logic for action, and this is kind of the core of my work for decades now, sadly, is that the logic for action on climate and sustainability is still not only compelling, it's kind of required. And I talk about this in a number of ways. And I think as you guys get started in this project, we'll point you to a couple LinkedIn learning classes where you can check out kind of my larger logic on this, that there's kind of a threefold argument that we need to make within companies and kind of to the business community, that we need to act on these things, we have to act, and we want to. Need to is just existential challenges. Climate change is really threatening our ability to thrive on the planet. Inequality is kind of tearing us apart, frankly. It's causing a lot of the populace rising. There's just been this massing of wealth in a very small number of people, and it's created incredible tensions around the world. And these are really big problems that business are in the middle of. So we need to act, or we're going to kind of undermine our own ability to thrive. The have to part is that there's actual laws. Europe and other places have regulated that large companies have to report on sustainability and talk about it and measure things. And there's just pressure from stakeholders, businesses on each other, younger people as employees, as customers. They just demand more and more of this as just the way business is done. And then the want to part is really the business case that I've worked on for many, many years, which lays out the ways sustainability creates value, and it creates value in the ways everything in business does. It can cut costs, it can reduce risk, it can drive revenues through innovation, and it can really build the brand, the intangible value of the business, by building relationships with your customers and employees, by building resilience in the organization. And there's just a huge amount of literature on that business case. But given the challenges we have to go bigger, we have to go faster. And that kind of led to me writing this book, Net Positive, with Paul Pullman. And Paul was the CEO of Unilever. He had been at Nestle. He was the CFO there for years. Then he was brought in the first external CEO for Unilever, a giant company operating in 190 countries, touching 2 or 3 billion people a day. And he made sustainability kind of core to the business. He was really, I think, the most effective big public company CEO on this topic, for good and bad. There were some really hard things, some things that didn't work. And we wrote this book because we both believed that it wasn't enough to just say, let's try to reduce our footprint. That companies, the leaders especially, had to start thinking more aggressively about how they could help the world, heal, frankly. And so the idea behind Net Positive is that we need leadership businesses now to think about how they impact the world and all that they do and throughout their entire value chain, and work to make every interaction with their stakeholders positive, to improve the lives of everybody that they touch. And the core question that we ask is fundamentally, is the world better off because your business is in it? And we have found that question kind of rippling through organizations, and it's been kind of powerful. I should say we didn't coin the term net positive. Saul was being modest, but Capgemini was working in a group a few years before the book came out that was kind of putting out similar ideas on net positive. It's not that we created it. We just, tried to put some structure around it and say, here's what it looks like in business. And there are kind of core principles to this kind of business, which you'll see kind of Cap's take on it as you move in this project. But the five are fundamentally this idea of ownership, that you do have impacts around the world, you have impacts in your whole value chain, and that is part of your responsibility, that you have created those impacts. It's a long-term focus, so it is trying to get out of the quarterly profit rush. It's multiple stakeholders. It isn't just about shareholders. It is about your communities, your customers, your employees, your suppliers, all of it. It is kind of deeply related to partnering. You have to be in collaboration with others to solve the kinds of problems that we need to solve. But the fifth principle is that it does create shareholder value, that when you do those other things well, by not putting shareholders first and only, you will create shareholder value. And I think Unilever proved that pretty well. We need a different kind of leadership in these kinds of companies. And I think we talked a lot in the book about courage. And unfortunately, I think that's what's been lacking in the US pretty profoundly. And we haven't seen companies really say almost anything about anything tough in the last year. They're just trying to ride everything out, which is not leadership, right? It's following. So I'm hoping that we're starting to see a crack. And maybe it is Nestle because it's a European CEO. Someone can speak from outside the US and kind of push back on some of this pressure. So I think, courage is really at the core. And what this project will be about, you'll hear, is how do you measure if a company's on its path to net positive? What are the right kinds of metrics? And that's what Cap has spent the last few years. They've had me as like a co-host, but they really did this work, and I kind of was hands off because I want to see people go off and build the tools for this and not be deciding it. We don't have the monopoly on this. So you'll hear a little bit about how do you think about whether a company is on this path, and what are the ways to measure it and learn about what the company's really doing. So I'll kind of pause there. If there's any kind of deep questions, happy to answer, but I think you'll kind of learn a lot more about this as you move forward. And thank you really for doing this. I know it's it's part of your kind of organization and leadership training. I think you'll find it fun, but it's really important to us to see how people who are coming to this anew work with it and assess the companies that they work in or that they know well. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, for that. And we'll come back to another Q&A session afterwards. We can, if you have any questions, put them on the chat, and we'll go back to Andrew afterwards. I'm just going to take the next few minutes to talk to you about how we actually took this concept. And let me just resume the slide to the right place. And we spent the last 2 years doing this with the EEP fellows, and we actually had a great time working together. We learned a lot from each other, and with the case study itself, it's pretty simple. We wanted to actually challenge the fellows on assessing companies on net positive. And there was one question that Andrew and Paul asked in their book, which is the world better off because your business is in it? So as a team, that was the guiding question that we had for the group. And our whole goal was to challenge the fellows to assess net positive maturity of a company using a maturity model and framework that we built together with a coalition that Saul talked about before. And then that was the first step. But the second step was to actually develop a strategy to promote regenerative, sustainable business practices, adopting net positive in these organizations. How do we do it? We leverage the maturity model and the framework. It provides a comprehensive approach to evaluating a company's across 3 dimensions: environmental, social, and economic impact. And then we look at key areas such as resource use, emissions, waste management, supply chain sustainability, employee well-being, community engagement, and governance. We leverage Gen AI to perform the initial assessment, and we use a platform called TASA for collaboration. As you can imagine, with 100+ people from 40+ companies, communication and collaboration is really critical to make sure that we can connect with each other. So we use a platform to do that. The process itself, it's pretty simple. We conducted a thorough research and analysis of the assigned company. We provide a report that Mary and her team from TASA generated, which is about 50 to 60 pages, scanning news, scanning information on the web, scanning annual reports, and so on and so forth, to actually give the key highlights of those different attributes. We have about 70 attributes that we evaluate across 15 different indicators. And then the teams, what they did is they actually applied Gen AI to do the initial scoring. And then they went through that process of actually looking at each one. It's like in the score, which ranges from 0 to 4. 0 is that the company's not doing anything, and 4, it's really transformational, changing the way the industry is working. They actually validated those numbers to make sure that that Gen AI and ChatGPT actually did it correctly. And then they spent a lot of time identifying area of strengths and opportunities for improvements within the sustainability practices to become net positive. We divided the groups into, for this cohort, we had 9 groups this year. Last year, we had 11 groups as there was more fellows. And then we actually had about 9 to 10 fellows per group. Each group was assigned a coach, and I'll introduce a coach in a moment. And then we had a touch point about once a month, and we had workshops where we invited Andrew, Paul Pullman, Saul, and others to talk about net positive, to talk about sustainability. And we invited also Hispanic leaders that have gone through sustainability and kind of their journeys in this as well. We wanted to kind of give around the information about some kind of inspiration on why this is important and why people should think about this. As I mentioned, the deliverables, there was a maturity assessment, a presentation, and then each team presented this at a competition that we at the graduation. We held the last one in November. This year was about 6 months, the process, 5 months. We launched it in May. We did it virtually this year. Last year, we launched it in Houston. In 2026, we still haven't decided exactly how we're going to do it. We're going to talk to Fernando for that. And then we did a workshop in June where we had this Andrew introduce the concepts, we introduced the tools, we introduced the coaches, and then we assigned each coaches, which in a minute I'll introduce, and then there was coaching sessions every month, and the different teams worked very closely with the coaches on validating the assessment, validating the thought process, getting guidance, and so on. I was on many of those calls, and I thought it was an amazing exchange. There was a lot of great discussions, great ideas being shared, working together. And then we brought in some speakers. We brought in talking about Always a Better Way, which is Jim Hartsfield, the worked at Interface, and that was their mantra. We brought in Chris Cole talking about storytelling. Then we brought in Paul Pullman to actually talk about that positive again and kind of give his perspective similarly to Andrew. And then we brought in Sandra Leiva, who's the Chief Sustainability Officer of CHEP. She's from Mexico City, and she actually she has a very interesting path to where she landed in sustainability. We just wanted to share with the group that sustainability is not something that we're born into. It's something that we graduate to because it's something that we aspire to be part of. And it was great to see how a journey got us to sustainability. And then we actually had the final presentation. The team worked really hard on that. And then we did the graduation. Which is phenomenal. The companies that we assessed was AT&T for Team 1, Cox Enterprise, Dell, GE Healthcare, IBM, Kroger, Bimbo, Group of Bimbo, McDonald's, and Penske. We chose these companies as one, the global companies, the global leaders in their spaces, and also they're doing a lot of very interesting work in sustainability. So that we thought that this would challenge the teams really well. As an example, Group of Bimbo is doing phenomenal work on regenerative agriculture and the way they're global. They pretty much in every country they operate, the way they've approached sustainability, and the incredible progress they've been making. Same thing with IBM, same thing with McDonald's, and so on and so forth. We had coaches for each teams. We had Mary Wilson from TASA, Miguel from Capgemini, Cynthia Lohr from J. Lohr, Chris Smith from Chain Smith. We had Frank Dixon is one of the world's most thought leader in system change. Kevin Eckerly, Jessica Grubman Kevin from Bayer. Jessica is also doing a lot of work in regenerative technology. Gail Friend, which is one of the founders of sustainability. He's been doing this for a very long time. And then we have Jeff Gowdy, who's another one. He's from Gardner Advisor. He's a professor at Vanderbilt, and he's been doing sustainability for the last 20 plus years. And I learned from Jeff that he actually had a hand in your book, Andrew. He reviewed some of the initial manuscripts of Net Positive, which is phenomenal. Then we have Saul, who's overall a coach and guiding godfather of Net Positive in this program. And then Chris Cole is a storyteller. And we also have Antonio Vizcaya, who's a professor at the University of Mexico. He's Mexico's #1 voice for sustainability. He was very helpful in helping the teams with organizing their thoughts and organizing their presentations. And then we did the finale in San Francisco. I'll share a picture in a moment. I thought it was phenomenal. And each team presented a project to the advisory panel members. We acted as judges. We had judges in the room. We had judges in London. We had judges in New York, in San Francisco. We had judges all over the world listening to the teams, listening to the great work we did together. And they were scored on 5 key dimensions: the depth and accuracy of the assessment, because we shared the assessment with them in advance, the alignment with the framework, the feasibility of the impact of the strategies, innovation, and also the quality of the report and the presentation. We actually were scoring the teams on how they presented. They had a very short time. They had 10 minutes to do this, and they have to deliver the message in 10 minutes. So they took 5 months of work. They took hundreds of key data points, distilled it down to 10 slides or so, and just delivered the message in 10 minutes. So the whole idea with this is to give you not only learn about the positive, but also help you better prepare for C-level presentation. As part of this program, you're learning a lot of skills on an executive speaking and so on and so forth. We wanted to give you that as part of the experience. And then the top 3 teams were recognized at the graduation and they're recognized on social media. We have a great picture of all of us in the room and some of you and some of the folks in the background that were joined virtually. We did this as a hybrid event. And then we had the competition champion. The team 5 for IBM was in 3rd place. Then we had McDonald's, and then the Cox Enterprise team ended up winning the best prize. It was a great event. We really enjoyed doing this, and we're looking forward to doing it again. And I think for the most part, we had an amazing feedback from everyone. And I'm going to turn it over to Vivi to tell us about her experience, because I think Vivi and the team that she was on, they had a great experience. And I wanted her to share from her perspective as being one of the fellows that worked on it.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to share my personal perspective on the recent case study project and how profoundly benefit me both professionally and personally. In regards to the personal growth and development, taking part of this project was more than just a career building opportunity. It was a journey of self-discovery and growth, particularly in developing personal, intrapersonal, and communication skills. As someone who English is a second language, I have sometimes felt uncertain when presenting complex topics to a large audience. This case pushed me to overcome those insecurities, and it gave me the confidence to engage, to speak up, and to realize that my voice matters, no matter the subject or the level of complexity. Now, women in technology. Another aspect that I want to highlight is what it means to be a woman in technology field. Often we face environments where we are in the minority, and that can be a little bit intimidated, especially when interacting with individuals of higher roles or with significant experience. What I discovered during this project was the genuine support and care for everyone on the team. No matter the title or the background, everyone was committed, approachable, and eager to help. This sense of community reinforced me that leadership and inclusivity are not about hierarchy. They are about support and a shared purpose. Working alongside an outstanding group of high achievers, each with a demanding schedules, I saw firsthand the power of commitment and teamwork. Despite of the busy lives, we all worked together, coordinated efficiently, and drove the project forward. This experience was strengthened by my belief in the importance of collaboration and the potential we unlock when we engage mutual respect and a shared vision. Learning about net positive from the context of the project itself, it was inspired by the concept of net positive. What struck me the most is the urgent need for systemic change in how organizations approach sustainability. It is not enough anymore to simply do less harm. We must strive to zero harm and even go beyond to become truly regenerative in our business practices. This is about shifting the global mindset from sustainable to net positive, not just minimizing the negative impact, but actively creating positive outcomes for people, planet, and business. And now, for the lasting impact, seeing that leading companies are building clear, actionable roadmaps to a net positive future was deeply motivating. It gives me hope, not just as a professional, but as a global citizen. Our actions today shape our communities and the world our children will inherit. We all have a part to play, not just at work or in business, but in our daily lives, at home, in our personal choices, and in small moments where we can make a difference. For me, this experience reinforced the idea that real change starts with individual actions and a collective effort. It taught me courage to raise my voice, to foster collaboration, and to keep raising awareness about sustainability in every aspect of my life. I am committing to applying what I have learned, not just in my current role, but throughout my career at Oracle and beyond, to inspire and drive broader, meaningful change. I encourage each of us to find ways, both big or small, to contribute to a net positive future, to embrace innovation, to support one another, and to always remember the power of combined actions. Thank you for listening and for being part of this journey toward the more hopeful, net positive future. Thank you.
Thank you,
Brava.
Vivi. I think we need to a
Well
round of
said.
applause for Vivian. I think in a short 4 minutes, 5 minutes as she spoke, she embodied everything that we were aspiring to achieve with this program and more. I mean, when we started this journey with this cohort or last cohort, people that don't know anything about sustainability, and today, 6 months later, listen to Vivi talking about how she's actually embraced it and how this concept resonated. And some of the key things, collaboration, having community, people working together and really thinking about the future and systemic change. I think we need to have this in our daily lives. There's too much noise right now. Let's just focus on all the things that we can do to make the world a better place. And maybe Saul and Andrew, if you want to add to it, but goosebumps. Thank you, Vivi.
Andrew, I mean, I have a couple of quick thoughts. I mean, I think Vivi just said everything that as Franco said, just embodied everything that we've been attempting to do since we brought this topic forward 4.5 years ago. I mean, I wish that we could clone you somehow, Vivi, or create an avatar of you, Vivi, and then you can speak on behalf of Andrew, Franco, myself, and anyone else working on that positive. And I think that we will have no doubt we would succeed. So thank you so much for everything you said. I mean, I can't think of a better way to sort of encapsulate what we're trying to do than how you just described it.
Yeah.
In the 5 minutes that you spoke. So just really, really amazing. And I hope that maybe we can record that part of it or splice it and broadcast it out to the world.
And I think Vivi, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think this really speaks to how impactful this experience and this interaction and collaboration has been for our fellows, and why we continue to look forward to continuing this partnership and building on this partnership, because I think the impact that it has on individuals in their daily lives and how they think about their roles in their companies, but also in their personal lives, I think can be so impactful. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm wondering if I can shift us a little bit,
Yes.
because we have Andrew. I have a question, and hopefully it's not too much off topic of what we're doing with the conversation we're having with EEP, but Andrew, I think of your expertise and what you bring to the table here, and thinking about sort of the current political discourse in the U.S. surrounding migration. How persuasive or viable is the argument that climate-induced displacement may contribute to rising migration flows to the U.S. and other developing countries, both short-term and long-term? Like, is that an argument that you think resonates on either side of the on a certain side of the political spectrum? Let's just leave it there.
So we're jumping right to the easy stuff.
Sorry.
Look, I think this is going to sound, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but I think it resonates for people who are rational. And that's not who's in charge. And we're in a historic anti-immigrant phase, and it's not just here, right? I mean, it's happening all over the place. And the estimates of displaced people from climate change are really high. I mean, upwards of 1 billion, right? I mean, you're talking about entire parts of Bangladesh within a generation being really, really hard to live in. And even within the US, there's probably going to be some migration northward.
Yeah.
So it is probably one of my biggest concerns about where climate change is headed, is not just, is the world thriving, does it provide what we need for 8-9 billion people? It's that kind of disruption, and how difficult that's going to be in a world that is in a country that's blaming everything on immigrants, right? I mean, and it doesn't bode well that the first thing basically this administration did was destroy USAID, because part of what you can do to keep people from emigrating is to try to help them where they are, right? Or put pressure on the politicians. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say we should just go take them out, but put pressure on the politicians that are making it dangerous for people to live where they are, right? So that people don't want to leave their home countries, if that's your goal, right, to reduce immigration. Now, the rational would also know that the U.S., if we zero out immigration, the U.S. is in deep trouble, right? We only grow through immigration, and 30, 40, 50% of the workforce in a bunch of key sectors are immigrant. So again, the rational would say you need a coherent immigration and you need to be ready for pretty big movement. We're not being led by rational right now. So I'd like to think that argument would get into play, but I mean, the discussion on immigration is almost entirely emotional and fact-free right now, right? It's not tied to these really real, scientific and political realities. So that area is going to be really difficult. And I don't see Europe doing much better, right? They're swinging right for some of the same reasons we are. So I'm sorry that's not a more positive, answer, but
I get it.
There's going to be a lot of displacement, right? And there's going to be places in the world that become too hot to live, right? Too hot to work outside. That's already happening, right? Or literally just too wet, too flooded, and we're not ready for that.
I think we're seeing that even within the United States, right? Scarcity of water. I live in the city of Chicago, which we're blessed with the Great Lakes, and I think we've already started to see and likely are going to see more migration in the next 20 years, even from within the United States, which isn't a terrible thing in the short term. But how sustainable is that going to be? I think is a question that we don't know the answer to yet.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's got a more positive take, but we can find something more positive before we end to talk about.
Sorry to bring us down.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's a really hard question.
Excellent. So do we have any questions? I know there's some great comments on the chat from many of you, and Vivi, I think you brought the house down. Congratulations on that. Everybody has a very great comments and compliments to your speech, and I think it's very well warranted. And Kelly, and do we have maybe you can we have several folks still on the line. Anybody has any questions? I know that many of you were a part of this. Any other thoughts, some others that would want to chime in?
I will say something regarding the topic we just discussed, right? So
yes,
it is sadly, for sure. We all agree on to that. But I think that also we need to be positive. We need to think on everything our ancestors have worked for us, everything that we are today, and what is our goal and what we're aiming to. And kind of like what it says here, right? It's a double word. It's because we can, and there's nothing can stop us. And we will be able to do it if we as a community stay together.
Absolutely. I mean,
That's
even
awesome.
though we are in a moment where right now there's a lot of issues, historically, immigrants have really created countries and really built everything that we have, like in the US, in Canada, in Argentina, in Mexico, you name it. It's people coming from many different countries that have created what we have as a society and as we have the richness that we have. And I think also the diversity and the working all together. And I think we saw this through the program, like the people coming from different countries, different fields, different companies working together, and those opinions and everybody collaborating is what really moves the things forward. I still am a big believer, despite, like I know Andrew said, like we need to, right now is not a good moment, but let's think of the future. I think we will prevail, we will come out of this, and things will continue to thrive because it is the richness of the diversity that we bring together. And there's somebody else on the, yeah. Any other thoughts? Anybody else? I mean, don't be shy. So,
hey, Franco, it's Nate, Delta Airlines.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, Nate. Good, and you? Good to see you again.
Hey, it's good to see everyone. Hope everybody had a great holiday and having a great new year. I'll just give my feedback and I'll echo Vivi. You did a great job. Really demonstrated and represented the entire group very, very well. I'll say, one of the benefits of going through the EP in my mind is it only reaffirmed my belief that none of this happens without strong leadership. And I think post-pandemic, a lot of organizations are suffering from a vacuum and strong leadership. We have people that are in leadership roles that probably got into them a little bit sooner than they would have if the pandemic hadn't happened. And, these are all problems that I think we need to solve. But, leadership is really where we need to focus on. A lot of our overcoming some of these challenges, whether it be trying to achieve our goals with net positive or, whether it be just trying to have stakeholder investment to drive our business forward. So, I really appreciated, everything I learned through the EP and everybody I met in HITEC. But I mean, especially all the different organizations, including yourself, Franco, and your team there, and, everybody there at Capgemini. None of it happens without leadership. And I think we all have to double down on that. And we all have to focus on not only developing ourselves, because if you ever stop, then you've already given up. But I think it's investing in our teams and never stopping the investment that is going to grow their leadership. Because I think as you bring people up, and I think I've repeated this over and over because I love the saying, that push up, pull up mantra that we have at HITEC is so true, and I think it really embodies developing your teams and developing each other, because I think that's our way forward. And I think if you want to look at what's happening in the world and you want to look at what's happening in this administration, none of it represents true leadership. And that's really where the opportunity is. So anyway, thank you for a few minutes. Really appreciate you guys and really am looking forward to this year to continue to drive forward, all of us together.
Awesome. Thank you, Nate, for that. And Saul, maybe a few thoughts from you?
I was just going to maybe just close this off, if that's okay, Franco. I mean,
Yes,
just go back
absolutely.
to Vivi's point. I think that what we're trying to do with net positive is nothing short than of changing sort of your state of mind. And we're in front of clients all the time, and you cannot let kind of perfection get in the way of something good. And the technologies exist, the frameworks exist, but I think the most important stance that you can take is exactly what Vivi said, which is look in the mirror and say, what can I do today? And how can I motivate the person next to me to become regenerative, reparative, and to question the systems that got us here? And don't let the lack of a tool get in the way of you moving forward with that. And every day, find someone that you can talk to about net positive and get them to act, irrespective of whether they have the tool or not, or irrespective, frankly, of whether they've read the book or not. I think just speak to them in the way that Vivi spoke to us, and just get them to move forward and look in the mirror. And gosh, you get 1, 2, 3, 10, 100, 1,000 people before you know it. We now, because of your community, have several hundred people speaking about net positivity at the enterprise level, senior executives like yourselves. So don't let any, the lack of an existing tool prevent you from having a conversation. What I tell our teams is, if you're comfortable, that's not a good thing. Seek discomfort. And in the world of net positivity, move into that discomfort space where you can have that difficult decision with your supplier, with your vendor, with your boss, with your IT specialist, have you thought about the implications of your work on climate? And have those conversations and do it in the way that Vivi's done it. And if you do that tomorrow, this call will have been a success.
Yes. Absolutely.
I know we're at the end of our time here. I want to take a moment to thank Saul, Andrew, Franco, Vivi for your comments. Especially also thank Capgemini for your continued support and for being such a leader in our community, and for partnering with us on this incredibly important work. We look forward to more of this. We look forward to greater impact and expanding the community that of leaders that we have talking about this incredibly important and taking action on this incredibly important topic. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next HITEC Live. Kelly dropped a quick survey into the chat. Please take just a quick 30 seconds. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear what you thought, so that we can continue to engage and improve on these HITEC Lives. Looking forward to seeing everybody. We will be hosting a number of smaller regional events. We have one planned in April in New York City, in May in Austin, and then we'll be in San Jose in September. Really looking forward to seeing everybody in person. Looking forward to kicking off this year's cohort of EEP in March in Milwaukee. But really, we are who we are because of everybody that's on this call, because of who is part of the HITEC community, your leadership, your dedication, and your focus on excellence and impact. Thank you so much. On behalf of HITEC, thanks for being here, and looking forward to seeing everybody soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.